increased federal funding for suicide prevention over the next years. This funding authorized the establishment of the very first National Suicide Prevention Hotline, or 1-800-SUICIDE, the National Suicide Prevention Research Center at the University Medical Center Trauma Institute in Las Vegas, and the Suicide Prevention Resource Center, a comprehensive clearinghouse of information about suicide prevention, intervention, and postvention. Senator Reid was there to open the proceedings at the groundbreaking National Suicide Prevention Summit Conference in Reno, Nevada in October of 1998. In 3 days, that gathering produced a working draft of the National Strategy for Suicide Prevention that Jerry spoke about. The senator also addressed numerous AAS and AFSP conferences over the years, including AFSP's first video conference, Survivors for Suicide Prevention Conference, on November 20th, 1999. He was responsible for Senate Resolution 99, which established that day, the Saturday before Thanksgiving, as Survivors for Suicide Prevention Day, honoring survivors for their prevention efforts. On February 8th, which happens to be my son's birthday, in 2000, Senator Reid testified before the Senate Subcommittee on Suicide Prevention, where the U.S. Surgeon General announced that the CDC was on schedule to have a national suicide prevention strategy ready for the American people before the end of that calendar year. Since 1997, Senator Reid has made many, many more important contributions to the suicide prevention cause. And for that, we are honoring him today. For all of us, Senator Reid, we thank you. And now we'll hear from the senator.
Let me tell you this little story here. One of my most exciting mornings took place when I was able to visit with Muhammad Ali at Caesar's Palace. I met with him. He was there. We had a wonderful conversation. He was in his workout clothes. He had a pair of trunks on and a big robe. And it was a wonderful meeting. You know, I fought for a couple of years as a young man. And that was so memorable to me to sit with the great Muhammad Ali and on a one-on-one meeting with him. It was very answering. So I go back to my office. I'm elated. I was able to meet with Muhammad Ali. I walk into my office and Joni Shea, my receptionist, said, Mr. Reid, your mom's on the phone. Your mother's on the phone. I picked up the phone. My mother said, your pop shot himself. So it went from a very high to a very low emotion that within a short period of time. Sure enough, I drove out to Searchlights, which is about an hour away from Las Vegas. And there was my dad on the bed where he'd shot himself in the head. And I was like most all survivors. I made it something I wasn't going to talk about. It was embarrassing to me. I didn't want to talk about it. So the best thing to do is just push it aside. As we've heard from Jerry, my dear friend, Jerry Reid, Mike Wallace was there. And it's true that he said, you know, I would go places I wanted not to come back. He said, but now I found somebody to talk to and take a little medicine and I want to live forever. And that's when I said, Mr. Chairman, Bill Cohen later became Secretary of Defense, I said, I think we should do a hearing on senior suicide. And I, at that time, told for the first time publicly about my experience with suicide. We think, most people, I thought I should put it that way, that suicide was something that happened to other people. It didn't happen to me. But as we look around, suicide doesn't just go with old people, middle-aged people, young people, everybody. One of my staff had twin brothers. And when one of them was 14 years old, he hanged himself. Suicide is around, and we've got to be aware of it. And when we talk about suicide prevention, we need to continue to work on it. Jerry's right. Even with the study that we've done, we still have trouble understanding why suicide is higher in some places than others. One would think that the dark, cold, eastern part of the United States with all the snow and blizzards and rainstorms and hurricanes, that's where most of the suicides would be, but that's not the case. For reasons we today don't understand, most of the suicides are west of the Mississippi. We don't know why. So I am very happy to join in accepting this honor, and it is an honor to be presented with this award. But it's a job that is not finished. We have to continue to work on this, because in the process, we're going to be saving our friends and our family from death. That's what suicide's all about. We can't hide what the word suicide is about. It's about dying, about killing yourself. And we've got to understand that it's more prevalent than we want it to be, and we need to continue to work on programs like this. So, Linda, Jerry, thank you for the years of work you've done on this. Really grateful to you.
Thank you, Senator. It was an honor.
So on behalf of the entire coalition, Senator Reed, thank you for being here with us today. Linda, Jerry, we are grateful for your presence, and thank you for all the support you've not only given to Nevadans, but have given to Americans across this great nation. Thank you again.
Thanks
Your
for having
children
me.
were good too.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I really appreciate that. That's going live on YouTube there. I really appreciate that. That the great Senator Reed says I'm a good father. So thank you. That means a lot today. Now we'll pass it on to Jeanette, who will introduce our guest speaker today, Miss Emma White.
Absolutely. Good morning, everybody. And like you've heard before, thank you so much for being part of this today. My name is Jeanette Masolo. I am the Training and Outreach Facilitator for Northern Nevada for the Office of Suicide Prevention. I do also happen to be the State Walk Coordinator for the Nevada Coalition for Suicide Prevention, normally working with all the coordinators out there for their individual community walks. But you know, the gift that came out of this pandemic this year is that we are all able to join the state as one community in this virtual walk. So it's awesome to be part of that. I am the Executive Secretary for the Nevada Coalition. I have been a hotline volunteer. I facilitate a support group, and I was actually the Crisis Call Center's head trainer for a number of years because I am a survivor of suicide loss. Everybody here, everybody that works in this field is important, but you've probably recognized that survivors are some of our best advocates when it comes to suicide prevention. Before I introduce Emma, I would like to share some history with you about the walk and kind of give some kudos to our different communities. So I'd like to mention that the first walk took place in Elko in 2005. The coordinator then has the walk in the park. It still takes place in the park, but she started a memorial circle. And how much does it say about community and support when survivors can stand shoulder to shoulder and support each other and hold each other up and help that healing process begin and continue. In 2006, Reno and Las Vegas joined in, and Las Vegas adopted the Memorial Circle, and he has that down there. Of course, it's lots bigger than the one that is in Elko. He's also had some amazing progress and participants as far as youth in his walks, both in teams and walkers, but also in volunteering. Supporting the youth is an important piece of what we do. When Douglas was part of the mix, they utilized memorial stones, and people use those in a couple of different ways. One was to use it as a worry stone, carry in your pocket, remember our loved ones. We don't want our loved ones defined by suicide. They are and were wonderful people. Another way that they used the stones was to throw that rock into a pond and see that ripple effect. Now we can view that ripple effect as a negative quantity, but we can also view it as support. If I support you and you support somebody else and they support somebody else, there's that ripple effect. There's that support and there's that connection in the community. Carson City, because that's the capital, she does a lovely way of bringing in the state and stats and information about the state. But she also shares a gift with her participants and letting them know that the funds that they donate go to suicide prevention in the schools, helping the kids become educated, helping the kids recognize that they might be at risk or their friend might be in trouble, and putting some help in place. So she carries the torch as far as suicide prevention with our youth. And it's really this generation that's growing up that I feel is going to impact change when it comes to suicide prevention. Winnemucca has their walk in a community garden is what it's called. And just the sense of that word, community, pulling in that connection, pulling in that support, and tying that community together. Battle Mountain has a huge support of the mining industry behind them. And what a wonderful thing to do to pull that mining industry in, who in their own right is at risk of suicide. The other communities, Mesquite and Caliente and Pahrump and Ely, we've had Fallon in the mix, we've had Yerington, we've had Dayton and Silver Springs. Everybody, all the communities have again worked together to utilize that connectivity, connecting themselves to the state, to support each other, help survivors, helping others. We're all connected now. Now Reno, we had our walk, we have our walk in a park next to the Truckee River. So the connection there is Tahoe connects to Reno and Reno connects to Pyramid Lake that has also had their walk. So Reno and Pyramid Lake were connected at one point through the river. But we've also used the river to talk about how the river can represent being a survivor. And I wrote a piece one year for the river, and I was encouraged to share it with you today on how the river does represent being a survivor of suicide loss. Now that's a survivor of loss. It's also a survivor of an attempt. So when I say survivor of suicide, it's both of those. So I would like to share what I wrote about the river with you. And hopefully it resonates with you as it has with myself and some others. So to me, a river represents strength, renewal, endurance, and life. Survivors, like the river, are strong. Kekla Magoon wrote, "The river moves, but it follows a path. When it tires of one journey, it rubs through some rock to forge a new way. Hard work, but that's its nature. Sometimes it feels like as survivors, we are anything but strong. Like the river though, regardless of the obstacles, we have learned to change our path or our journey to create a new path and a new journey. They say that time is like a river, and I heard a quote that reads, just as the river flows from higher ground to lower ground, so time flows from the past and into the future. In time, the dimensions of a river change, and with the passing of time, it becomes renewed as other tributaries join. Like the river, survivors in time become renewed in the many ways we learn to survive our losses. It might be helping each other at group, it might be helping with family and friends, or those in the community find their own way down that path. We may not feel like it sometimes, but we have survived a devastating experience. There have been times that it's felt like we were caught up in the rapids, crashing around on the rocks, and other times when the calm waters were easier to navigate. We have endured. Much like our grief, every now and then, a river becomes stagnant or dammed up. But like our grief, it gathers itself and it starts flowing again. A Greek philosopher said, one cannot step twice into the same river, for the water into which you first stepped has flowed on. Our lives and our recovery are constantly changing. We don't drown by falling into the river. We drown by staying there. The true nature of a river is to move forward. So as survivors, moving forward, sometimes day by day, sometimes minute by minute, is something that we must do as well. Roderick Brown wrote, "Rivers are veins of the earth through which the lifeblood returns to the heart." As a survivor, I believe that our lifeblood returns to our hearts when we connect, support, and guide each other through those losses and into our healing. So thank you for letting me share that. And I have now want to introduce a lovely young woman that I've gotten to know, and she's very, very passionate about this work that we do, Emma White.
Good morning. My name is Emma White, and I'm blessed to be here today talking with you. For those of you who don't know me, I am a native Nevadan, currently living in Reno. I am many things: a former basketball and volleyball player, entrepreneur, sister, daughter, and friend. But amongst the many things that I am most proud to be a mental health advocate. This is because I am a suicide survivor. I know it might not seem like it now, but just a few years ago, depression told me to take my life. I was 15 years old and a sophomore in high school. Why would a teenager with a loving family, good grades, and active in sports want to end her life? Because I was being bullied at school and harassed on social media. Because I was told that I wasn't good enough by my peers. Because I thought I had to be perfect. Being so young, I didn't know how to handle rejection, and I thought I would seem weak if I asked for help. Instead of talking to someone who could help me, I forced myself to face my battles alone. I didn't want to bother anyone with my problems, so I stuffed my emotions deep down inside, fearing to seem imperfect. Without knowing it, I developed depression. Overwhelmed with anxiety and sadness, I felt like my life didn't have a purpose. On December 23rd, 2010, I planned to take my life. It's not that I wanted to die, it was that I wanted to end the pain. The dark gray matter that consumed my heart and mind lied to me and told me that the pain would end if I took my life, just as music, movies, and the media talk about, a permanent solution to a temporary problem. Thankfully, my plans failed, and I am alive today sharing my story in hopes of encouraging you to put your mental health first, to treat it just as you would a physical injury or the flu, and to recognize that your life has a purpose. Your life is worth it. You've heard the word depression, but what is it exactly? Depression is the long-lasting feeling of sadness, typically lasting longer than 2 weeks. It can change your sleeping and eating patterns, give you fatigue, irritability, and ultimately make you want to end your life. Depression does not discriminate. It doesn't care who you are or what you look like. It doesn't care where you come from or where you're going. But depression does not always present the same in all people. Because we can't always see it, there are many stigmas that say mental illness is not real. Let me share some Nevada statistics with you. In our state, we have the 11th highest rate of suicide in the country. Suicide claims the top spot for cause of death for youths aged 12 to 19, along with the second highest rate for the elderly. More people die from suicide than homicide and motor vehicle accidents combined. And for every teen that dies by suicide, it is estimated that 200 teens have also attempted. Last year, nearly 800,000 people worldwide committed suicide. After hearing these statistics, do you believe that depression and suicide are real? Do you think that mental health is just as important as physical health? You might be asking yourself, what would make someone want to commit suicide? You aren't the first person to ask this question, and many of you might not understand. If you haven't personally experienced depression, it can be difficult to relate to someone wanting to end their life. But regardless of our circumstances, we can all agree that life is hard. Even if we don't realize it, we live in a world that demands perfection, happiness, and accomplishment. And if we don't have those things all the time, we might be considered a failure. We are constantly being judged by people who don't know us. We are told to be strong and to not let others see us cry. We search for our worth in other people. We have so many things to worry about each and every day. And when someone makes fun of you or belittles you, if you don't know your purpose, if you bury your emotions deep down inside, or if something traumatic happens, it can make you question why you're here. It can make you doubt your worth. If you are struggling with bullying, addiction, abuse, or if you are feeling alone and lost, you might think that suicide is the only option. But let me tell you, suicide does not end the pain. It transfers it to the people left behind. No matter your purpose, your path, or where you're at right now, you are worthy because you are here. You are supposed to be here. Seeking help and treatment for depression might seem scary, but it is the strongest and smartest thing you can ever do for yourself. I might not know you, but I know how you're feeling. You want to be free of pain. When we allow ourselves to feel our emotions, talk about our circumstances to someone who truly listens, forgive those who have hurt us, and make the healthiest life choices for ourselves, we are able to step out of our trauma to live the life made for us. Depression does not have to be a life sentence. If you or someone you know is thinking about suicide or struggling with depression or mental illness, you are not alone. With the help of Nevada Coalition for Suicide Prevention, please call the Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-8255 or text the word HOME to 741-741, where someone is waiting on the other line to talk to you about what you're going through. You are never alone. 10 years ago, I was a teenager unsure of myself and what I offered the world. Now at age 25, I know that my purpose, my reason for being here is not to commit suicide. On September 30th of this year, I will launch my organization, Life is Worth It, and my autobiography and self-help book to inspire others to fight for their life amidst the chaos the world can bring. And we all know just how chaotic life can be. Look at our year. Lifeisworthit.org will offer a list of mental health resources, a community of survivors, mental health workshops, confidence classes, and so much more. If you would have asked me at age 15 if I thought I would be here today, sharing my story and empowering others, I wouldn't have believed you. But now that I have overcome depression and suicide, I know that life can be so much more than living inside of your trauma. There is a light waiting to shine from you. Keep fighting because you are worth it. Your life is worth it. If you have lost a loved one to suicide, please know that my heart is with you and that you are never alone. I'm always here to listen and help in any way that I can. You can reach out to me at lifeisworthit.org. Thank you for taking the time to listen to my story, and thank you, Nevada Coalition, for the work you do every day in preventing suicide.
Thank you so much, Emma. What an honor to have you all. And as we wind down, when I started this conversation, it was the theme, working together to prevent suicide. And as you have heard from our amazing presenters, from Linda Flatt and Jerry Reed to Senator Reed and everything he did and the partners he worked with, Emma and Jeanette, Chris, thank you all for pulling us together. And I want everyone listening to us across the state and maybe beyond the state of Nevada, you make a difference. We need to work together. You all have a role to play. So if you are trying to find what that role might look like, please go visit the Nevada Coalition for Suicide Prevention website. Take a training, learn those skills to help your loved one, help a colleague, help yourself. Because with help comes hope. And you have been given the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. Crisis Support Services of Nevada has incredible helpers out there by text or by phone. You are not alone. The Office of Suicide Prevention is there to help you as well. So find your place in this incredible prevention effort. I wanted to mention a couple events through Suicide Prevention Month in September, many, many things are happening. Go to the coalition, go to the Office of Suicide Prevention, go to Hope Means Nevada to learn what you can do. Today in the north in Reno, Forever 14 is having an event to connect young people and their families. Connection brings protection. I also, on a sadder note, there was a memorial today for Sparks Mayor Ron Smith, who we lost recently, at the Sparks Marina. He was an advocate for veterans, and he was one of the first mayors of the Mayor's Challenge for Suicide Prevention with our service members, veterans, and their families. So today at the Sparks Marina at the Nevada Veterans Memorial Plaza from 8 to 4, they're honoring Mayor Smith. I encourage you all to go join and honor him. And now I will turn it over to Amaris, our wonderful chair of the Nevada Coalition, for the final words. Thank you all for being here today.
Thank you so much, Misty, and Senator Reed, Jerry, Emma, Jeanette, Karen, everybody who has joined us for this virtual walk in memory walk for hope this year. Your stories and your passion are inspiring to all of us, and we could not be here and do the work that we do as a coalition every single day without all of you and your support and your love, and Linda as a founding member, your guidance and your eternal passion for this work guide everything that we do. And so thank you again so much to all of you. And I just want to wrap up today in kind of highlighting some of the really important themes that have come out of this virtual walk and what we can look to moving forward that will help all of us. And so, you know, in hearing Jeanette's story about the river for, you know, recovery and moving forward, and Emma's about this consistent pressure from society about what perfection is supposed to look like. I just want to point out that in combining the messages of those two stories together, we need to remember that progress is perfection. Moving forward, no matter how small, means that you are doing everything right and that you are enough, you are good enough. It's, you know, a concept that I personally struggle with quite a bit, but something that all of us need to remember, especially in these really crazy times in which we are being told to socially distance ourselves in order to protect our physical health. Connectedness and reaching out to each other is more important than ever to ensure that you're not just helping those around you or asking 5 people how they're doing that day, which is all super important, but it's also a model of self-care to make sure that you have connections that can support you, that can help walk you through your darker days, and then you can in turn support on the days when you're experiencing more light. And so we applaud everybody who is doing this work. We welcome anyone who wants to do more and volunteer with the coalition. Everyone's voice is important and crucial to the work that we're doing. Everyone who has lost a loved one, whether it be a parent, a sibling, a child, a colleague, a friend, a relative, a neighbor, anybody who has been touched by this, as well as those of us like Emma and myself and so many others that are survivors of attempts, you know, whether it be during adulthood or as a child. And having this community all come together for all of the different types of work that we do and the help that we love to give to everybody involved is just so precious. And I encourage all of you to see what it is that you can add to your life that will help bring more connectedness into your daily routine with the people that you care about, and thereby taking care of yourself. And so with that, and Whereas we have concluded our first statewide virtual walk in memory walk for hope, I would like to thank all of our speakers today for being here. And I'd like to thank all of you who are watching and will be watching in the future the full recording of this event for your passion and dedication and the work that you do. The Nevada Coalition is grateful for each and every single one of you, and we look forward to continuing this work and welcoming more of you into it for many, many years to come. Thank you again, and we hope that you go out and do amazing, beautiful, wonderful things.